This year I grew the Black Hole Sun sunflower. It's grown pretty well, it's produced some good seed heads, but I have noticed some insect interactions with those seed heads that don't seem to be particularly desirable. So I want to cover that in this video and talk about that. I've grown some other varieties of sunflowers in the past and have noticed similar issues as well. And for a long time I wondered what this insect was that was causing this damage, and now I think I have a pretty good idea. So today we are talking about the sunflower moth. Latin name of the genus is Homeosoma, and so there can be some, and so there may be some different species of that. I'm just going to kind of cover the Homeosoma group broadly in this video with all of what I'm talking about here. Typically the females, the female moths of these insects will lay their eggs in these sunflowers. As those flowers are blooming, right, and those seeds are beginning to develop inside that flower, they will typically lay their eggs in the oftentimes in those bracts of the sunflower, and then those larvae will hatch, find their way into those seeds, and begin to devour, right, to eat the seeds as they are developing, right? So the seeds at that point don't have that tough coating that we're all pretty well acquainted with, that we have to, you know, crack those seeds out of the shell. So those tough shells aren't developed, right? And so they're a lot more pliable, a lot more easier to chew through and digest. And so these moth larvae really take advantage of that, right? And so they can chew through these seeds and decrease the yield of those seeds, right? So if we are growing these sunflowers for seed production, this could potentially be, you know, a pretty substantial problem. And so these moths will not just limit themselves to feeding on the developing seeds of sunflowers, but also will reach out into other species in the aster family, right? The composite plants like thistles, black-eyed Susans, a whole bunch of those types of plants. So what are some natural control options? Obviously, using insecticides and other conventional means like that isn't ideal in general, and especially in this case because we're dealing with a flowering part of the plant during that time of the year when those pollinators are active on that plant, right? A lot of those broad spectrum insecticides specifically are going to be not recommended, right? Because they can either kill or damage some of these beneficial populations. That said, these natural control mechanisms are things that really work to try to keep that sunflower moth in balance on the landscape, but it's not necessarily a tried and true recipe for 100% success. What we know about all these interactions is just very minuscule, and that's where continued research, observation, and experimentation come in to the picture to see how we can most optimally grow these sunflowers so that we can still get a productive harvest from them and not be completely devastated from the effects of this sunflower moth, right? So this is a starting point. So we have some different beneficial insect species like the minute pirate bugs. These are insects that are in the larger true bug family. So true bugs can include the wheel bugs, assassin bugs, stink bugs, soldier bugs, ambush bugs, squash bugs. Whether they're beneficial predators or herbivorous pests, that family kind of encompasses that whole range of that. But the minute pirate bugs are super beneficial. They feed on, they're generalists, so they will eat a bunch of different insect pests, not just the sunflower moth, but they can eat that sunflower moth, right? The larva, especially as it's developing in those seed heads. And conveniently, these minute pirate bugs also feed on plants of, the nectar and pollen, right, of aster family plants, and the sunflower is in the aster family. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone here, right? You're also attracting a beneficial insect that can hang out directly on those sunflowers and kind of be on patrol for this sunflower moth. Now, one thing we might want to keep in mind is to have plants nearby that the minute pirate bugs like, that flower a little bit before the sunflower, right? So we can have those beneficial bugs in that close proximity to those sunflowers before the sunflowers come into bloom, right? So those populations of the minute pirate bugs can already be on that landscape, and they don't have to build their populations as the sunflowers are already being devoured, right? So some other plants we can include are a bunch of different plants from the carrot family, right? Queen Anne's lace, carrots when they go to flower, parsnips, dill, fennel, coriander, or also called cilantro. A bunch of these different plants can be super beneficial for maintaining these minute pirate bugs, right? So like these small flowered plants, like the plants in the carrot family, also different plants in the aster family can also be beneficial as well, as can buckwheat, right? So maybe we can time our planting of the buckwheat so that given that it's a pretty quick growing plant and will go to flower pretty fast, we can plant that buckwheat early enough or late enough in the season so that it can be in flower by that time that the sunflower, before that time that the sunflower comes into bloom. That can be super beneficial. Also, a perennial woody native plant to North America is the elderberry. It also has those flowering clusters that can also attract minute pirate bugs as well. And they, at least in this climate, do flower just a little bit before the sunflowers come in, so that can be beneficial. Also, different legumes like vetch and such, when in flower, can also attract these minute pirate bugs as well. Next up, we have the parasitic wasp. Different species of the parasitic wasp can potentially lay eggs on these caterpillars and help to keep their populations in check. Parasitic wasps also really benefit from beneficial pollinating plants, just like the minute pirate bug. And there's a lot of overlap in the similar species that these two plants, insects, like, right? Like, again, we have the carrot family plants that I previously mentioned, and also the aster family plants that I also previously talked about, with the addition also of psyllium. That can be a good small little plant to grow, potentially nearby, to help bring in some of these beneficial predators. Next up, we have the predatory ground beetles. So these guys are a little different. Specifically, they need good vegetative cover. So people have devised these things called beetle banks that can be just thick growth of grassy or prairie type, wildflowers and grasses that can help to sustain populations of these beneficial insects, right? And keep them protected from predators above, whether they be birds or other insects. So, the predatory ground beetles also like those conditions damp, and having that thick cover in a strip along a planting row or whatever can help to give that protection, but also help to hold some of that moisture in during the day, especially when it gets hotter closer to that middle point of the day. We also have some other possible predators, notably generalist predators of potentially of this sunflower moth that might be good to keep an eye out for. So these may include bats, right? These sunflower moths can fly around at night. I've seen them at night on the flower heads, and so the bats can be a good evening or nighttime predator. Then we also have birds that may also potentially go after the larva as a protein source, but they can also go after the seeds of the sunflower, which may or may not be a good thing depending on why you are growing those sunflowers. Then we also have spiders that can make their webs in some of these different near or on these sunflower plants, and so they may also have a part to play in some level of control for this sunflower moth. Some things that I've noticed in terms of this sunflower moth, as those larvae begin to feed, we can see the development of frass, like blackish brown particulate matter, can accumulate on those sunflower leaves below the flower, because they will fall from the flower onto those leaves, and that may be a sign that the sunflower moth is in your crop. We can also look at and see different webbing potentially in that sunflower flower part where these sunflower moths will actually kind of use this silky webbing. And so if you knock on that sunflower head, you can see some of these caterpillars stringing their way down on these strands of silk off of these sunflower heads, right? So that can be the identity of the problem. Now, I have found the sunflower moth larva that typically looks tan and brown, kind of like that striping going down the length of that caterpillar. But I've also found some of these other caterpillars that have more of like a reddish purple, like a raspberry type coloration to them. And I've found those also on the sunflower heads. I don't know if they are a different life stage of that same species, or if they may be a different species, maybe like of the banded sunflower moth, which is in a different species, different genus, or if it's just a different pest that I haven't yet identified. So we can also find the adult sunflower moths if we're trying to look for them. I've gone out at night, right, maybe like 9 o'clock or so. Well, yeah, it's usually like around early August, so around here it's going to be dark around like 9 o'clock, 9:30, and so that's when I went out with a flashlight, and you just shine the light on the sunflowers, and you can see a bunch of different moths, right? And some of which will be that sunflower moth, right? And I did actually trap one. I got a really low quality picture of it on my phone, but there it is. And then also in this other picture, you see these larger looking moths. These are actually just the adult stages of the cutworms, right? So they're actually not actively harming the seeds. It's probably just convenient mating grounds for them, but they're not actually eating those seeds, right? It's just the adult sunflower moth that is laying its eggs in those flower heads, right? That is what you have to worry about. But those larger moths, those are called like dagger moths or dart moths, I think, actually in this case, and those aren't a concern at all. And they look pretty cool. Although they can be earlier in the season when they're in that cutworm stage. They can be problematic. Black hole sunflower, and so I did notice a few things that I want to document. And this one thing is the frass accumulating on some of these lower leaves. Kind of see that dark brown, blackish colored granules. That is the frass on the sunflower leaves that are coming up or coming down from the maturing flower. You can see the flower is beginning to turn yellow on the back, so it's beginning to mature and become ripe. The petals have, died back, desiccated, dried out, and are in the process of falling off. We can also see these little florets or whatever on the seeds. I've been rubbing a few off, but they're coming off fairly easy now. And we can also see some frass up here, kind of, maybe. And then there's also an interesting hole there. So I'm thinking, and then when I was rubbing these flowers off seeds, I noticed there are a couple of caterpillars coming down from the seed heads on strands of silk. So I'm pretty sure that is a telltale sign or telltale signs, multiple, of the sunflower moth. So I don't know how many of the seeds they got to. It looks like there are a few patches here that they may have done some damage to, but yeah, we'll kind of see what that damage looks like. Conduct a triage in the post-harvest analysis or whatever. Thank you so much for checking out this video on the sunflower moth. This is an insect that can cause, a good amount of damage in these sunflower crops for seed production. Of course, if you are growing sunflowers for the birds and things like that, it's probably not that big of a deal. In fact, some of those moth caterpillars may also be a supplemental food source for those birds as well. But if we are growing these sunflowers for seed, we might want to try to take preventative measures to help kind of control this species on the landscape as best we can. I don't know that there's going to be necessarily a 100% control, success, and I don't even know if that's desirable, because that in and of itself, if there are no sunflower moths eating the sunflower at all, then that could also point to an ecological imbalance and ultimately be a bad thing. And this is just a starting point, right? Some of these natural control measures and ideas that we have currently are probably pretty rudimentary, right? There's probably a whole host of other ecological interactions out there waiting to be discovered, or different things that we can do. Does difference in photosynthetic levels in these plants, does that affect the intensity of seed damage by these sunflower moths? In different soil conditions, if calcium is more optimally available in that soil profile, would it help strengthen those cell walls and reduce to some level some of that seed damage or whatever, right, as those seeds and those flowers are growing and developing? Or would it not have an effect? I don't know. But ultimately, I think it really kind of points to the level of ecological function of how effectively the landscape is keeping in balance all of its species that it has there, right, including the sunflower moth. But that's a really tricky thing to measure, because ecological health is very dynamic, it's very complex. But if we can shift certain things in a desirable direction that can help to reduce this pest pressure, so that we can get the food that we need as well, that's really kind of the goal. So thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe, helps out the channel. Also consider joining as a member, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.